as I was saying, that judging a text by a particular standard, a particular Western standard, or a Eurocentric standard, it disintegrates the critical analysis of text basically to shreds. It is not fair to for a text to be analyzed on the basis of different standard, or the standard, a canonical Western standard. So this idea, this ideology is quite common in colonizers, to judge others by their standard, and this they call universalism. So this idea of universalism is attacked by Chinua Achebe in this essay. It is a very important section of the essay. The term universalism is exclusive. It includes the whole world. The term universalism refers to European parochialism. European writers always emphasized universality in the writing. They believe that writer has to cover all the issues in general, or writer has to speak for all. So, what is universalism? According to the common or basic definition, universalism is something which is common or which encompasses the entire universe. But the universalism preached by Europeans is nothing but European parochialism. And here, parochialism, which means basically to focus on small section, है ना, small sections or small issues. But here parochialism stands for European narrow-mindedness. So universalism of Europeans represent the narrow-mindedness, and their narrow culture, and it cannot be applied to all the cultures and all the literatures of the world basically. But Europeans have a habit of doing that again and again. For example, I can give you an example of civil services examinations during the British Raj. Civil services examination in India started, the modern civil services started during the British Raj, and Indians had to write that examination in English only, where they had to compete with Europeans who had Europeans or Britishers who had studied English language since their birth, whose mother tongue was English, and Indians had to learn English first, then study for the civil services exam in a foreign language, and then write that exam in that foreign language and compete with basically someone who is very familiar with that language. So this caused very few Indians became civil servants, and all the civil servants, most of the civil servants were Britishers, and they were appointed as tax collectors and collectors, chief executive officers, or basically administrators of Indian people or Indian cities, towns, where they had no idea about the language that the people spoke, and they had no idea about the culture, history, or tradition of that particular village, but they were appointed as administrators of these people, and they were basically had the powers of king over that particular towns and cities. So this, according to Europeans, was an example of universalism, converting the savage Indians by making them write in English, read in English, talk in English, and making them wear the suit, boot and tie, basically babus with Indian background and European education, which was a great failure because Indians had to compete with people who spoke and wrote English language since birth. So it caused a problem, it caused a discrimination in civil service examination. But according to European, this was universalism. They judge African text from this angle. They argued that the African text is not universal because it does not speak about the universal issues. It speaks only African voice. Therefore, the text is invalid. They are not able to write about the whole universe. The two problems with universalism, according to Achebe, are first that the presumed universality that critics find is merely a synonym for narrow self-serving parochialism of Europe, and second that every literature must speak of a particular space evolved out of necessities of its history, past and current, and the aspiration and destiny of its people. It means that every text comes out of specific time, space, and the people. Therefore, every text is related to space specific and every text is related to space specific and people specific. African people have experience about racism, therefore they can write about racism deliberately. Africans might have made mistakes, but they didn't bring racism in the world, therefore they would write about it, which African specific situation which is pervaded in African. Achebe sustained the idea that the term universalism must be banished. According to Achebe, universalism is nothing but European parochialism, which is narrow and self-serving. He criticizes African and British critics of contemporary African literature for not praising the uniqueness of African experience and for not praising universality wherever they can sense its presence. There is no such thing as universal human for Western critics. What they mean is Western like them. So universalism means basically Western. Become Western is to become universal in the language of Europeans. Universalism is a mere argument to persuade writers to be like Western author. So why would we write and read and approach an issue, a societal issue or a political issue according to European standards? We have our own problems, our own issues to deal with, and a good literature, basically a good literature is a local literature. Okay, there should not be a universality in literature, otherwise it is not a good literature, and this has been confirmed by many critics. Gugiwa Thyango, Chinua Achebe, and Indian critics like Bhalchandran Nemade, Amitav Ghosh, or even Ramchandra Guha, who is a historian. So a person, Ramchandra Guha for example, a person called him a man who belongs to all world, a universal man, a man who encompasses the whole world. Ramchandra Guha rejected that idea. He said that I have been made, I have been created, whoever I am today, I have been made by my circumstances, my history, my society, and my traditions. I cannot be a universal man, a man of the entire world, a man who belongs or proposes the idea for the entire world, because I belong to my people. So any good literature is a local literature. It should not encompass an entire the entire world, and a good literature is only successful when it is local. And I will give you an example of that. A piece of local literature which has dominated the world for decades. It has become the biggest biggest success in fiction, and that is Harry Potter by J.K. Rowling. The Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling has been written by a British author about British people for the British people. That's why it has become such a huge success in pop culture, in literary circles, because it is made about and made for a particular local British people, right? So the writer J.K. Rowling has become a billionaire. She is the first writer to become a billionaire after writing a local literature. So that is what a good literature does. It is not universal. According to Achebe, this idea of universalism itself should be removed from intellectual, critical, and analytical spheres. Okay, that's it. We will continue in the next lecture.